I watched from the kitchen doorway, drying a plate I just washed. Christmas at my parents' house. The same house I grew up in, though it felt smaller now. Or maybe I just outgrew it. Aunt Karen held court in the living room, her wine glass catching the light from the Christmas tree. Uncle Pete and Aunt Sarah flanked her on the sofa, all three of them dissecting the family gossip with surgical precision. "I'm just saying," Aunt Karen continued, her voice carrying that particular pitch of false concern. "It's been, 3 years? And we still don't know what Morgan actually does for a living." Mom shifted uncomfortably in the armchair. "She works in technology." "Doing what exactly?" Aunt Karen interrupted. "Every time I ask, I get vague answers." "Oh, she's in tech. She does computer things." "That's not a career description, Janet. That's someone hiding unemployment." I continued drying the plate. "Maybe she's embarrassed," Aunt Sarah suggested. "You know, if she's working retail or something." He supported Best Buy. "There's no shame in that, but she probably doesn't want to admit." "She's not working retail," my sister Chelsea interjected from the corner, scrolling through her phone. Chelsea, the golden child, the successful one, the one everyone actually knew about. "Then what is she doing?" Aunt Karen demanded. Chelsea looked up. "I don't actually know." Aunt Karen spread her hands, vindicated. "See? Even her own sister doesn't know. Nobody knows who she is or what she does. It's suspicious." Uncle Pete nodded sagely. "In my day, you had a job title. Engineer, accountant, salesman. None of this mysterious 'I work in tech' nonsense." The doorbell rang. "I'll get it," I said, setting down the plate. I opened the door to find our mailman Gerald holding a large padded envelope. "Special delivery for the Reeves household," he said, smiling. "Needs a signature." I signed his tablet. "Thanks, Gerald. Merry Christmas. You too, Morgan." I closed the door and looked at the envelope. Bloomberg Businessweek December issue. I knew what was inside. I'd known for 2 weeks, ever since the photographer had finished the shoot, since the journalist had sent me the final draft for approval, since my publicist had called to say the issue was going to be massive. I walked back to the living room. "What's that?" Uncle Pete asked. "Magazine delivery?" I said, tossing the envelope onto the coffee table. "Uncle Pete, you subscribe to Bloomberg, right?" "Your copy just arrived." "Oh, excellent," he said, reaching for it. "I've been waiting for the Person of the Year issue. They always do excellent profiles." He tore open the envelope. I returned to the kitchen. I was always the weird one, the quiet one, the one who didn't make sense to the family. When I was 8 and Chelsea was 11, she won the regional spelling bee. The whole family drove 3 hours to watch her compete at state. She placed 4th. Dad took everyone out for a celebratory dinner at the nicest restaurant in town. That same year, I won 1st place at the county science fair for building a basic computer program that sorted data. My project sat in the garage for 2 months before Mom finally threw it away. "We can't keep everything, honey," she'd said. Chelsea's spelling bee trophy sat on the mantel for 6 years. When Chelsea was 14, she made varsity volleyball, freshman year. Everyone called her a prodigy. Dad went to every game. Mom organized the team snacks. Aunt Karen bought her custom knee pads. When I was 14, I taught myself Python and built a website for Dad's small accounting firm. It automated half his data entry. "That's nice, sweetie," Dad had said, barely looking up from his paperwork. He paid someone $4,000 to rebuild the same site 2 years later, because he'd forgotten I'd made the first one. When Chelsea was 16, she got her and Dad bought her a used Toyota Camry. Light blue, 45,000 miles in perfect condition. When I was 16, I passed my driver's test on the first try. Dad congratulated me and said I could borrow Mom's car when she wasn't using it. I borrowed it 4 times in 2 years. The rest of the time, Mom needed it. The worst part wasn't the car or the trophies or the attention. It was the comprehension gap. The family simply couldn't understand me. Chelsea's achievements made sense to them. Sports, social success, clear, measurable, understandable. My achievements existed in a world they couldn't see. Code, algorithms, systems, digital architecture. At 17, I built an app that helped small business manage inventory. I sold it to a regional software company for $15,000. I told Dad at dinner. "That's great," he'd said. "What exactly is an app?" Chelsea had gotten a volleyball scholarship that same week. The family group chat exploded with celebration. 47 messages in 1 hour. My app sale got 3 responses. "Congrats" from Mom, a thumbs up emoji from Uncle Pete, and "What's an app" from Grandma. At 18, I turned down a full ride to State University to attend MIT. Chelsea had gone to State on her volleyball scholarship. It was a family tradition, Dad said. For generations of Reeves had gone to State. IT is too far away, Mom had protested. And so expensive. I have scholarships, I'd explained. Academic scholarships. They're covering 90% of tuition. But why, Dad had asked, genuinely confused. State has a perfectly good computer science program. MIT is MITID said. It's pretentious, Aunt Karen had declared at Easter dinner. Morgan thinks she's too good for the family school. I went to MIT anyway. The family came to Chelsea's volleyball games. They didn't visit me once in 4 years. What my family never understood, what they never bothered to ask about, was what I was actually building. At MIT, I didn't just take classes. I lived in the computer lab. I collaborated with people who understood what I was trying to create. I found my people. Sophomore year, I met 2 other students, David Chin and Priya Sharma. We spent 72 straight hours in the lab, working on a project for our AI class. We built a machine learning model that could predict supply chain disruptions based on global data patterns. It was supposed to be a semester project. Our professor called it commercially viable. We spent the next year refining it. Junior year, we entered it into a tech competition. We won $50,000 in meetings with 3 venture capital firms. Senior year, we incorporated Meridian Analytics. The 3 of us equal partners working out of David's apartment. Our product AI-powered predictive analytics for supply chain management. We could tell companies where their next disruption would come from before it happened. We had 12 clients by graduation. Revenue $340,000 in the first year. I graduated magna laude. My family came to the ceremony. They took photos. We had lunch. They left before the evening reception, where I received the departmental award for outstanding achievement in computer science. We have a long drive, Mom had explained. And your father has work tomorrow. Chelsea's volleyball banquet was the following week. They took 2 days off and drove 8 hours to attend. That summer, Meridian Analytics exploded. We landed a Fortune 500 client, a massive logistics company, that paid us $890,000 for a year-long contract. Then another. Then 3 more. By 23, Meridian was generating $4.7 million in annual revenue. We had 17 employees. We'd moved into real office space in Cambridge. By 25, we'd raised $15 million in Series A funding. Revenue hit $23 million. We had 63 employees and clients in 14 countries. By 27, we were the fastest-growing AI analytics company in North America. Revenue $127 million. Employees 240. Valuation $680 million. I owned 33% of the company. On paper, I was worth $224 million. My family knew none of this. At Thanksgiving, when I was 24, Uncle Pete had asked what I was doing for work. I run a tech company, I'd said. Oh, like a startup, he'd asked. One of those things where you work 100 hours a week for no money. Something like that. Well, it builds character, he'd said, patting my shoulder. Even if it doesn't work out, you'll learn a lot. At Christmas, when I was 26, Aunt Sarah had asked if I was still doing the computer thing. Yes, I'd said. Chelsea says you live in Boston, Cambridge, but yes, that's expensive. Are you managing okay? Do you need help with rent? I'm fine. Well, if you need anything, don't be too proud to ask. I owned a 2,400 square foot condo in Cambridge, paid in cash. $1.8 million. At Chelsea's wedding last summer, Aunt Karen had cornered me at the reception. Morgan, sweetie, your sister tells me you're still not married, still focused on the career. I'm busy with work, I'd said. What is it that you do again? I work in AI and predictive analytics. She'd blinked at me. Is that computers? Yes. Well, that's nice, dear. But you know career isn't everything. You should think about settling down. You're not getting any younger. I was 29. I'd just been named to Forbes' 30 Under 30 list. The article described me as a revolutionary force in enterprise AI. Aunt Karen had spent the rest of the reception telling people I worked with computers and wasn't married yet, poor thing. 3 months ago, I got an email from Bloomberg Businessweek. Miss Reeves, we're working on our annual Person of the Year issue, highlighting individuals who have fundamentally changed their industries. Your work in AI and predictive analytics has come up repeatedly in our research. We'd like to profile you as one of our featured innovators. Would you be interested in discussing this? I showed it to Priya over coffee. You have to do it, she'd said immediately. It's going to make things complicated. Things are already complicated. You're running a $680 million company. Your family thinks you fix computers at Best Buy. They don't think that. Morgan, your aunt asked me at Chelsea's wedding if I could help you find a nice, stable job with benefits. I'd laughed despite myself. Do the interview, Priya had said. Tell your story. Own your success. The photographer came to our offices in September. 3-hour shoot. They photographed me in the server room at my desk, with my team standing in front of floor-to-ceiling screens showing real-time global data. The journalist interviewed me for 4 hours, asked about my childhood, my education, my vision for AI, my thoughts on the future of technology. Do you have family support? She'd asked. I paused. My family loves me, but they don't really understand what I do. Do they know how successful you've become? I don't think so. I've never really explained it in terms they could grasp. Why not? 'Cause I got tired of not being seen, so I stopped trying to make them see me. That quote made it into the article. The journalist sent me the draft 2 weeks before publication. The profile was 6 pages. The opening spread featured a full-page photo of me in the data center, screens glowing behind me with the headline, The Quiet Revolutionary, How Morgan Reeves Built the Future of AI While Nobody Was Watching. I approved it. My publicist called immediately. Morgan, this is massive. Bloomberg's marketing team says this is going to be one of their biggest issues of the year. You're going to be on everyone's radar after this. Good, I'd said. You ready for that? I've been ready. The issue was scheduled to hit subscribers on December 23rd, 2 days before Christmas. Perfect timing. Christmas morning started the way it always did. Mom made her famous cinnamon rolls. Dad set up the coffee station. Chelsea and her husband Brad arrived at 9 o'clock with their 1-year-old daughter, Emma. We opened presents in the living room. Emma got the most gifts, obviously. Chelsea got a designer handbag from Mom and Dad. Brad got golf clubs. I got a $50 Amazon gift card and a book about finding your passion. We didn't know what to get you, Mom had said apologetically. You're so hard to shop for. It's perfect, I'd said, because what else could I say? By noon, the extended family started arriving. Aunt Karen and Uncle Pete, Aunt Sarah and Uncle Jim, cousins I saw once a year and barely knew. The house filled with noise and food and the particular energy of family gatherings. Part warmth, part obligation, part performance. I helped Mom in the kitchen, set out appetizers, refilled drinks, stayed busy. Morgan's still single, I heard Aunt Karen announce in the living room, still focusing on her career. What career? Uncle Jim asked. Something with computers, Aunt Karen said vaguely. Nobody really knows what she does. Chelsea tried to defend me. She has her own company. Oh, sweetie, Aunt Karen interrupted. Lots of young people call themselves entrepreneurs these days. It usually means they're between real jobs. I stirred the punch and said nothing. By afternoon, the gossip had crystallized into narrative. The family had decided my story. Morgan, the mysterious one, the unsuccessful one, the one who wouldn't talk about her computer job because there was nothing to talk about. I heard she's still renting. Aunt Sarah whispered to Uncle Pete, not as quietly as she thought. I own property in 3 cities. Probably can't afford to buy. Uncle Pete agreed. My net worth had hit $247 million after our latest valuation. It's sad, Aunt Karen said loud enough for me to hear from the kitchen. Chelsea's so accomplished, and Morgan's just nobody knows who she is. She's like a ghost. Here, but not really present. Probably unemployed and too proud to admit it. That's when the doorbell rang. I set down the punch ladle and walked to the door. Gerald stood there with the Bloomberg envelope. Special delivery. He said exactly as he'd had in my mental rehearsal of this moment. I signed it, took the envelope, closed the door. The living room had gone quiet. Everyone was watching me. What's that Uncle Pete asked? Your Bloomberg subscription, I said, tossing it onto the coffee table where he sat. The Person of the Year issue. You were waiting for this. Right? His face lit up. Oh, excellent. I love their year-end profiles. He tore open the envelope, pulled out the magazine. The cover showed 3 faces, a pharmaceutical CEO who'd revolutionized drug development, a climate scientist who'd predicted the year's major environmental shifts, and me. Smaller than the others, bottom right corner, but unmistakably me. The photo from the data center, the screens glowing behind me. Uncle Pete stared at the cover. Is that, he started. He opened to the table of contents, The main feature articles were listed with page numbers and thumbnail photos. Page 34, The Quiet Revolutionary. Morgan Reeves builds AI empire while family watches. The thumbnail showed me standing in front of Meridian's logo. The room went silent. Uncle Pete flipped to page 34 with shaking hands. The article opened with a 2-page spread. The photo took up the entire left page. Me in the server room surrounded by glowing screens looking directly at the camera. The right page showed the headline in massive type, followed by 3 columns of text. Uncle Pete read the first paragraph aloud, his voice growing fainter with each word. Morgan Reeves doesn't look like someone who controls $680 million. She doesn't act like someone who's revolutionizing artificial intelligence. And until recently, she certainly didn't talk like someone whose predictive analytics platform is used by 47 Fortune 500 companies across 6 continents. But make no mistake, at 30 years old, Reeves has built one of the most influential AI companies in North America. And she did it so quietly that even her own family didn't notice. Aunt Karen's wine glass slipped from her hand. It hit the carpet, spilling red wine across the beige fibers. Nobody moved to clean it. Uncle Pete kept reading silently, now his eyes moving across the page. His face went from tan to pale to faintly green. "Let me see that," Aunt Karen said, her voice high and strained. Uncle Pete handed her the magazine with trembling hands. Aunt Karen read. Her lips moved slightly. Her eyes widened. The article was comprehensive. 6 full pages. It detailed Meridian's founding, our growth trajectory, our major clients, our valuation. It included quotes from industry leaders calling me visionary and the most important voice in enterprise AI. It included detailed financial information. Our $127 million revenue, our $680 million valuation, my 33% ownership stake. It included the quote about my family not understanding what I did, and it included a sidebar titled The Invisible Billionaire with a breakdown of my personal net worth. $247 million at last valuation, with projections hitting $500 million plus in the next 3 years. Aunt Sarah leaned over to read over Karen's shoulder. Her face went white. "This can't be right," Aunt Karen whispered. "Let me see," Dad said. The magazine was passed to him. Mom read over his shoulder. I watched from the kitchen doorway, still holding the dish towel. Dad looked up at me. His eyes were wet. "Morgan, is this real?" "Yes," I said simply. "You own a $680 million company. Technically, I own 33% of a $680 million company. David and Priya each own 33%. Investors own the rest. And you're worth." He looked back at the magazine. "It says $247 million. $247 million. The number changes with each funding round. After our Series C closes next month, it'll be higher." Chelsea had stood up holding her phone. "Oh my God. Morgan, I just Googled you. There are hundreds of articles. Forbes, Fortune, TechCrunch. You're in everything. How did I not know this?" "You never asked," I said. The room was completely silent, except for Emma babbling in Chelsea's arms. Mom found her voice first. "Honey, why didn't you tell us?" "I did tell you. Multiple times. You said you ran a tech company." "I said I run a tech company. I said I work in AI and predictive analytics. I said I have clients in multiple countries." At Chelsea's wedding, Aunt Sarah asked if I needed help with rent, and I said I was fine. "I've told you, you just didn't hear it." Aunt Karen was still staring at the magazine. "But you're so quiet. You don't act successful." "What does successful act like?" I asked. She opened her mouth, closed it. "This article," Uncle Pete said, his voice strange. "It says you gave the keynote at the Global AI Summit last year." "Yes. And you've been featured in Forbes 3 times. And you own property in Cambridge, San Francisco, and New York. I needed offices in those cities. It made sense to buy." Dad was reading the article in detail now. "It says here that you taught yourself to code at age 9. 12, I corrected. "They got that wrong. I tried to code at 9, but didn't really understand it until 12. And you built your first profitable app at 17. Sold it for $15,000. I told you about that." "I don't remember. It was the same week Chelsea got her volleyball scholarship. At dinner, you asked what an app was." His face crumbled. Chelsea had sat down heavily on the sofa, still scrolling through her phone. "Morgan, there's a TED Talk. You gave a TED Talk last March. It has 4.7 million views. It did well. You're verified on Twitter. LinkedIn is more important for my industry, but yes. Brad Chelsea's husband cleared his throat. Morgan, I work in finance. How did I not know about Meridian Analytics? We use predictive analytics at my firm. You might be using our platform, I said. We white label for several financial service providers. His jaw dropped. The Meridian platform? That's yours. Mine, David's, and Priya's. That platform is industry-changing. It's... He stopped. I've been using your product for 2 years. How's it working for you? It's incredible. And we've improved our risk assessment by 43% since implementation. That's about average for financial services, I said. The algorithm performs better in logistics and manufacturing, but finance is solid. The room was silent again. Aunt Karen stood up suddenly. Swayed. Her face had gone gray. Karen! Uncle Pete jumped up. Are you okay? I need to sit. She sat down hard. Aunt Sarah rushed to fan her with a magazine. Ironically, the Bloomberg issue. I don't understand, Aunt Karen said faintly. You're just Morgan. I am just Morgan, I agreed. But the magazine says you're successful. I supplied. Yes. Why didn't you tell us? I looked at her. This woman who'd spent years dismissing me, pitying me, treating me like the family failure. Aunt Karen, I said quietly. 30 minutes ago, you told Uncle Pete that nobody knows who I am, and I'm probably unemployed. You've spent years asking what I really do as if my answers weren't real. You've offered me career advice, rent money, and pity. You've treated my work like a hobby and my success like a fiction. Her face flushed red. I stopped trying to tell you, I continued, because you'd already decided who I was. The weird one, the unsuccessful one, the one who didn't make sense. And nothing I said could change that because you weren't listening. That's not fair. You called me unemployed less than an hour ago. She had no response. Dad set down the magazine. Morgan, I'm so sorry. I should have asked, I suggested, listened, believed me. Yes, all of that. Mom was crying now. We're so proud of you. Are you? I asked not cruelly. Just honestly, are you proud of me, or are you proud of what Bloomberg says I accomplished? That's not. If this article didn't exist, I said, if I'd come home today and told you everything that's in those pages, would you have believed me? The silence was answer enough. Chelsea stood up, came to the kitchen doorway. Morgan, I'm sorry, I should have paid more attention, should have asked more questions. You were busy, I said, with your life, your career, your family. I understand, but you're my sister. I know. I should have known. I looked at her. My big sister, the golden child, the one who'd always made sense to everyone. Chelsea. I said gently, it's not your fault that they understood you and didn't understand me. You fit the mold. I broke it. That's not a moral judgment. It's just fact. He hugged me then tight. I'm proud of you, she whispered. I should have said it before, but I'm saying it now. I'm so proud of you. I hugged her back. Thanks. The rest of Christmas was surreal. The family treated me like a stranger, like someone famous had shown up at their gathering and they didn't know how to act. Uncle Pete kept asking technical questions about AI that I could tell he didn't understand. Aunt Sarah wanted to take photos for Facebook. Cousins I barely knew suddenly wanted to know all about my work, my life, my success. I answered their questions politely, briefly, but I felt further away from them than ever. 7 p.m. I made my excuses. I have a conference call with our Tokyo office at 9 p.m. I need to prepare. On Christmas, Mom asked, different time zones. It's already December 26th in Tokyo. But you'll come back tomorrow, right? We're having leftover dinner. I fly back to Cambridge tomorrow morning. Board meeting on the 27th. Oh. She looked disappointed. We never get to see you. You can visit anytime, I said. I have a guest room. We will, Dad said quickly. We'll plan something. Maybe we can see your office. I'd like that. I gathered my things, hugged. Everyone accepted their awkward congratulations and apologies. Chelsea walked me to my car. Are you okay? She asked. I think so. They mean well. I know. They just didn't understand. Chelsea. I interrupted gently. You don't have to defend them or apologize for them. It's okay. Is it? I thought about it. It will be. She hugged me again. Text me when you land tomorrow. I will. I drove away from the house, watching it shrink in the rearview mirror. My phone buzzed. A text from Priya. How did it go? I typed back exactly as expected. You okay? Better than okay. I'm free. As I was finally. For years, I'd carried their misunderstanding like weight. Their inability to see me had made me feel invisible. But that article, those 6 pages in Bloomberg, had done what I'd never been able to do. It had made them see me in a language they understood. Money, success, status, recognition. And in seeing me, they'd revealed themselves. They didn't love me more now than they had yesterday. They didn't understand my work better. They didn't value my accomplishments more deeply. They just believed the accomplishments were real because Bloomberg said so, and that was enough for me to let go. The Bloomberg article changed everything and nothing. Everything I was recognized now. Speaking invitations flooded in, media requests, partnership offers. The industry treated me differently, not better, just more visible. Nothing. The work was the same. The team was the same. The mission was the same. I was still Morgan building something I believed in. The family visited once. Apple. They toured the office, met my team, saw the technology in action. Dad asked better questions this time. Mom took photos. They were trying, but the distance remained. Chelsea and I talked every week now. Real conversations. She asked about work and actually listened to the answers. We were building something real slowly. The others sent occasional texts. Congratulations on this article or that award. Thinking of you messages that felt obligatory. I responded politely, but I'd built my real family elsewhere. David and Priya, my team at Meridian, the network of founders and innovators who understood this life. It's seen me all along. In June, Forbes released their annual billionaires list. I wasn't on it, not yet, but they ran a companion article, The Next Billionaire Class, 15 Founders Who'll Hit 10 Figures by 2027. I was number 3. My phone buzzed with family messages. Pride. Congratulations. Aunt Karen sent a long text about how she'd always known I was special. I read them all. I responded to none because the thing about being seen is this. Once you realize you don't need their vision to exist, their blindness can't hurt you anymore. I'm Morgan Reeves. I built a $680 million company while my family thought I was unemployed. I revolutionized an industry while they didn't know what industry I was in. I became someone worth profiling in Bloomberg while they wondered if I could afford rent. And I did it all without their belief, their support, or their understanding, which means I did it all on my own terms. And that makes it mine in a way nothing else could be. The quiet revolutionary. That's what Bloomberg called me. I liked that because I didn't need to be loud for them to hear me anymore. I just needed to be excellent. And excellence speaks for itself.